So I've heard it from the very beginning of like, that's stupid, that's too much weight, that's more work, I don't. And I'm like, almost all of those things are wrong. Because, and I've tried to put this into videos where, again, there are pros and cons, obviously, to a rooftop tent and a ground tent, but there are people out there that just think a ground tent is better in every scenario than a rooftop tent. And that's not the case at all.
It is interesting, like you see all the solo camping things and they get big view stuff, but it's like, that looks miserable. You're by yourself in like nasty, like snowy conditions. It's like minus 20 degrees and you're like, sick. That looks terrible. You're by yourself.
The fallacy is like, there is a lot of really cheap crap made in China, obviously. A lot of cheap crap gonna fall. But the highest end stuff, your MacBooks, your iPhone, like they have wildly advanced. You can manufacture stuff in China you can't manufacture in the US.
We're back with episode 4. We've got Mike Pfeiffer in the house.
How's it going?
And we are pumped to have you here. We got Tanner back in the building, so a little different podcast. Gonna be the three of us kind of talking, and we don't know exactly what we're going to talk about yet, but we do know we want to talk about you and what you're doing and what's life like right now. What is Mike Pfeiffer working on?
Yeah,
All sorts
life
of
is
stuff,
good.
I'm sure.
Hi, I'm Mike. Hi, I'm Mike. Don't look at the camera. I guess people know me. No, I think people know me mostly from YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel where I kind of do a lot of truck and off-road, overland type adventure, mix in some preparedness topics and stuff like that. Just a lot of gear, like a general gear guy, like gear, like getting things dialed in, and that's kind of what I do.
You always been a gear junkie?
Yeah.
Kind of like growing up, you were always tinkering and messing with stuff?
Yeah, just trying to get like systems working better and kind of latest, what pocket knife is the best or multi-tool or what flashlight am I going to use, what bag can I load out the best. So always been kind of, a tinkerer and a...
vehicle related stuff, or was it...
Not always. I mean, I've always been into cars.
Okay.
Like I've had probably, 40 to 50 cars throughout my life. Not like nice cars, just like project cars and beaters and this and that. But I love, cars and trucks and kind of like go, motorcycles or sports cars or trucks or SUVs or whatever, kind of the whole gamut. So, but more recently have I been like building out more like systems for vehicles. Like before it was just cars and gear kind of separate, and then I kind of brought them together in a sense personally.
Nice.
So like I have this kind of term I call, like people talk about overland rigs or bug out vehicles or whatever, and I like getting like a daily driver. Like my Tundra is kind of my main daily driver, and I say it's like a prepared daily driver. So it's got bumpers on it in case I hit a deer, there's a riot or a bunch of pedestrians I need to plow over or something like that. It's set for that. Or if I need to self-recover, I got stuff for that. If, just my battery dies, I got stuff for that. So kind of having systems in vehicles to make those vehicles a little more self-sufficient, I guess, is kind of what I'm into,
How'd you get... Well, I'm jumping around. I mean, I've never heard this from you, but how'd you start the whole YouTube thing?
Yeah, it's I don't know, not a super interesting story, but I was a web developer. So I went to graduated college, got a job, learned how to basically write code. So I was a web like a back-end programmer. But I'd have always been into just like guns and knives and like backpacking and off-roading, all of that stuff separately, but never did that professionally. I was just a desk jockey, so to speak. And then really on Instagram, it was way back in Instagram, like when you could post like 7-second videos, and I would post like gun training, like concealed carry training drills that I would just do out in the forest, because I was getting super into that at the time, and kind of started building a small following in that kind of genre. And a lot of people ask me questions about holsters or concealed carry in general or this or that. And Instagram was very limiting. So I was like, where can I put answers to this in long form? Like with no intention to be a YouTuber or anything like that. So there, at the time anyway, there's kind of like Vimeo and YouTube. And I was like, well, do I put this on Vimeo, or maybe YouTube's a little easier to search or whatever. So I started just putting kind of educational content for that genre on YouTube, really just to answer questions that I got on Instagram.
Right.
So that's how I started YouTube. And it was not like, I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to like thumbnails and this and that and like, you know, try to build a following on YouTube. I was like, I'm just going to answer these questions I got on Instagram. And I would, you know, post a video once every few months when I was like, oh, some other topic came up that I should talk about. And over the course of a couple, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years, I don't really remember, in my like early YouTube career, I just kind of slowly started building a following. Like I've never had any exponential growth or anything. It's just kind of been a slow, steady incline.
Right.
But at some point, companies started reaching out and wanting to send me stuff to try out or review or whatever. And then I started making, I think, a little bit of ad revenue. And I don't even remember what the first, you know, it was probably like a flashlight, some small thing. A company was like, oh, we'd like to send you a flashlight. And I was like, sick, free flashlight for like doing nothing. Awesome.
Right.
And, you know, that turned into bigger things, and then that turned into money. And then I was like, I guess I should put like a little bit of an effort into this thing. And around the same time, actually, I started a holster company as well, like tinkerer, always trying to make. And I was like, there's all the holsters out there suck. So I kind of was like, I'm sure I could figure out how to make a holster. So, you know, watch YouTube videos or went in forums or whatever, figured out how to make holsters just for myself. So I started making my own holsters for myself. And at the time, I was making videos, and a lot of them were about concealed carry, and people would see the holsters that I made myself. Like, where is it? Who makes that holster? Can I get it? And I was like, I made the holster. You can't get it. And then I started having people ask me if they could buy it. And so I kind of fell into both YouTube and building a holster company just by kind of sharing what I was doing for other people. Yeah. So that turned into my holster company and my YouTube channel, really. And probably, I don't know how long it's been now, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, my income like surpassed my day job. And then it surpassed it by a decent margin. And eventually I quit my job in web development. Actually, the catalyst for that was I built my own house. So that was like 2 years ago. I started building my own house.
You done?
Pretty much. Yeah, we've been in it for a year now.
Awesome.
So I've been in the new house for a year now. So yeah, about 2 years ago, I quit kind of full-time employment to do my own thing. But immediately my full-time job was building a house. And then we had a kid. So I have a 1.5-year-old, and then my wife's pregnant and due probably have another baby in like a month. So then I went from, full-time job, full-time builder, to kind of like dad mixed with YouTube and holster. Kind of, my life is a little weird.
Have you seen it change maybe the direction of where your channel's going now that you have a family? Is there anything different there, or things you're kind of adding to the mix that people need to?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really changing my channel's kind of evolved a lot, I guess, talking YouTube. Again, kind of started with firearms and kind of a little bit of preparedness stuff. And then one day I showed like my truck, which was a Tacoma, like a tan Tacoma. I was like, this is what I keep in my truck as a dude that lives in the mountains of Colorado. And people loved that video and wanted like, oh, we need more of the truck stuff. And that was about the time I got like my first rooftop tent, which
what was that?
It was a CVT, just kind of the run of the mill. Everyone had that tent, kind of just the cover, the ladder on top, well, you know, just the standard rooftop tent. And I got that and started camping. Like, I've always been into camping, and I've always been into off-roading kind of separately. And so that was kind of my gateway into what, like, overlanding or whatever we want to call it, like throwing a rooftop tent on the truck. And at the time, throwing a tent on a short bed truck wasn't popular. Like there wasn't companies making accessories. It wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
It was so I kind of like jerry rigged my own rack system that I eventually broke, trying to make this thing work. I was like, that seems like a cool place for a tent. I can still keep gear inside. Yeah. So that was actually like a thing that not many people were like, I'm not here like I'm the first one to do, but not many people were doing it.
Right.
So it kind of like was a new trend at the time. And then I was like, oh, I'll do some rooftop tent videos. And then I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I started getting kind of bored of, huge Second Amendment supporter, run a holster. Like I like guns, but there's only so much. Like that gets so boring so fast talking about it.
Yep.
So I was like, if I'm going to do this YouTube thing, I kind of want some more content and some different things that I enjoy. So I started kind of throwing in different aspects of my life where it was kind of pretty focused at the start. And then it kind of just became like, I'll make videos on whatever I'm into.
Yeah.
And then kind of car camping or overlanding kind of took a big part of that. So long-winded answer to the question of will your channel evolve? It probably will, because my channel is just whatever I'm into at the time.
Well, it's cool.
Like,
it's authentic then.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I'm kind of getting into golf a little bit. My channel probably won't turn into a golf YouTube channel.
We could make a great video though.
Maybe a separate YouTube channel. But like I kind of try to keep things in the general like outdoor kind of general preparedness, adventure, vehicular kind of space. Like I kind of keep it somewhat contained, like maybe a little homestead stuff, but like I'm not gonna start streaming video games or something on my YouTube channel.
Do like a golf tour and go travel around and stay in rooftop tents. And you guys are just getting old now. You guys are liking golf. Like I always played golf, but I was the not popular one in high school because of golf, but now like all my friends want to play golf. It's like you grow up and it's like,
I think
this
you
is
get
the greatest
older
game
and
ever.
it's like you hang out, you get some drinks in, you hit some ball. It's like kind of frustrating but kind of rewarding and
addicting.
Yeah, it's I see my Instagram feed is full of golf now. Like Danny Choi from Washington and I send I think every friend like sends reels back and forth. But now we're sent, so I'm watching more golf reels, and now my explore page is like, oh, this guy likes golf. Let's just like start shoving him golf. So now like I have so many golf reels, and there's a lot of them like chasing that feel. Your great chip or whatever, and you're like, oh,
it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
Real friends send you like they send you reels, right? But then like your golf homies, like they send you videos of their swing, and like Danny sends me videos of swings. Like, Ben, what am I doing? And I'm like, all right, man, do this, this, and this. Let's try this. And it's like that's how he and I stay connected is through golf. But we're in the overlanding or the vehicle accessory space, and like to me that's so cool. Like I would love to go play golf with everybody. Like it's what I love to do.
Yeah, and it's fun when you can do that. Like a lot of times, there's some people out there that are just like into one thing. Like I love road bike or whatever it is, right? But I think a lot of people that are like into overlanding or whatever, I've got a bunch of hobbies. I'm into a bunch of things, and maybe golf's one of them.
Yeah, awesome.
Maybe hunting is or whatever.
I'm so excited for your journey.
Yeah,
we'll see. Lifetime of frustration and lots of really good times and probably more drinks than what you need.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I just kind of like overlanding. Like, I'm never gonna go golf by myself. Probably. Like, I don't see that. Like, just like
give it 6 months.
I don't. But I don't do it. Like, I like to mountain bike, but I like to mountain bike with
simulator
friends.
And you got a mat for your house. Like you're fucked. You're
well, I'll hit the ball in the basement by myself. But like all the things I'm into, overlanding or anything, like I like to do it with I like to do it socially. Yeah. Like I think I'm an introvert. Like if somebody invites me to a party or I'm kind of like, if I got a reason to go, I'll go. But I'd rather just sit at home. So I'm definitely an introvert. But when I do activities, mountain bike, golf, overland, camping, whatever, it's not something I enjoy by myself.
Right.
Like I don't want to sit around the campfire by myself.
Yeah, just sitting there.
Like I want to golf, for instance. If somebody hits a good shot, celebrate it with them. Or if I hit a good shot, you see that? If nobody saw it, what's the point?
Right.
But that's kind of how I feel, I think.
It is interesting. Like you see all the solo camping things, and they get big view stuff. But it's like,
people on. Yeah,
it looks miserable. You're by yourself in like nasty, like snowy conditions.
Snow.
It's like minus 20 degrees, and you're like sick. That looks terrible.
Yeah, I think it's
You're
something
by
like
yourself.
that. Like people like to watch like other people's misery, or they want to watch them overcome something, or there's some other, maybe there's more sense of danger if you're out there
Right.
solo or whatever. And I'm like, I could do it. I got the skills, I got the capability, I could fly drones, I could set up tripods, but that's like my whole thing since the start. What we get kind of talking about is don't want to just like make content so I can make like I've never thought through a video of like, how can I make a viral video, or will this get good views? It's just like, I want to do it, I'll film it, you know, I'll try to do at least like a half can we swear on this spot? Half
100%.
baked a half baked video on it. So it's like the core of like my camping videos is camping.
Yeah.
It's hanging out with friends. That is my objective for any trip. And then I'll try to make a video and try to get some photos from it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the solo ones is like, well, you're just doing it.
You're going out there to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just lazy. Probably I'm lazy.
Well, I don't know.
Doesn't
I
sound
would
fun.
say
Doesn't
more
sound
like
fun.
You want to be out there with people. I talked about that in the last episode with Will, that it's like, I'm really in it for the people, the relationships
Community.
with people. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy like getting to sit down with you, or like the times that we get to work on things together, or I don't get out camping a ton because we're just so busy here. But like when we do get those chances, sitting around a campfire, cool things happen. Like that's how I made all my friends in Colorado. So
Yeah.
it's just part of our thing here as, Coloradans. It's like part of the deal.
Yeah, I feel like, and it may be different for different people, but I'm after like good hangs.
Yeah.
Whether that's on the golf course, or whether that's out hunting, or on a backpacking trip, or overlanding. It's kind of just good hangs is what I'm after at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's awesome.
I think the connection side of like, if you are out there and you see something crazy by yourself, it's like, oh, let me tell you about this. But if you get, had a couple buddies who you're like, remember that?
Experienced, yeah.
That was nuts. I think that I don't know. I feel like the overlanding world and all of that stuff is all about community. Although I do like watching people suffer out in negative 20 degrees.
Yeah,
dude,
like
it's cool.
I
Sure.
kind of understand I understand why people want to watch it, and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to make that Not that I don't mind suffering. Like I do enjoy like going on a trip and just like conquering the elements, and I'm miserable, and it sucks in the moment, and later you're like, oh, that was kind of rad. But
once we get you fully into hunting, then you'll be like, oh, this storm didn't bother me whatsoever. It's like I needed the break in my tent. You're out there hiking 10 miles a day. You're like, if it storms, I can't wait to put my tarp up and fall asleep.
And I think from like the hunter approach, or like I think I camped a little bit with my parents as a kid or whatever, but like my first kind of foray into camping in the wilderness was really backpacking, which is way more miserable than overlanding.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to go hike 10 miles and then sleep on the ground in your 1 pound tent, like counting ounces and all this stuff, then overlanding is like luxury.
Right.
Which I enjoy now.
Yeah.
Like I did the suffering, I did the misery, and I'm just like, hey, I don't mind sleeping on a 6-inch mattress with a quilted down top, heated blanket. Like, give it to me. Yeah.
Well, that's how I got into the whole thing, was hunting and wanting to be more comfortable. And that's what rooftop tents provided me, was like, I don't want to go out and pack 10 miles in. And I was talking to Aaron about this, another hunter, and it was like, we're getting older, and like, this is the way that we keep doing it at like a high level. But like, no, I'm not going to pack in with 100 pounds on my back unless I drew a tag that was just like, we're going for 15 days and we're packing our food and sawing off our toothbrushes. Like,
But you got
that's what we're doing.
An objective. And I think like that's how, we talked about it before, but that's how we grew up camping. Doing the whole backpack, portaging, all that crap. It was miserable most of the time, but you had those like moments that were a blast that like you won't ever forget. And I remember laying on an island with Dad, and we were drinking grog. I was probably like 15 years old, which is just vodka and Crystal Light. And he's like, well, allegedly.
We were 21 at the time.
And we were looking up the stars, and it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. And he looks at me, and he's like, hey, Tanner, you believe in aliens? And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, I've never had this conversation with my very square dad. Like, and I'm like, well, yeah, I think probably it's pretty big out there. You know what I mean? Like, felt like something I'll never, ever, ever forget. And I was probably miserable 90% of that time. But I wonder if that's why we got into this, like, more glamping, you know, side of things, because it was like, we did it, and it was cool.
Overland with 37-inch tires or under my feet with boots on, like, it's a different way to do it, but it's more, not only is it more like comfortable for people to do, it's easier for new people to go do it that have never done it before, because you almost have your security of your vehicle. You feel that, like, when I'm out there sleeping in the backcountry under a little A-frame tarp, like, I'm literally more concerned about getting trampled by cows than anything else. I'm like, do they see my little camouflage tent? Like, it's just me under here. But, like, that's not comforting to most people. And I think that's what the vehicle and, like, overlanding or vehicle sustained travel, like, that's what it's brought. It's brought an avenue to, like, newbies to, like, they've never done this before, to, like, take their kids out camping for the first time.
Yeah, it's great for family, and you go further depending on where. Like, we live in a great spot, obviously. Like Colorado, there's tons of beautiful, beautiful trails. So, like, can you backpack to more remote, better places? Absolutely. Is there better fishing up there? Most definitely.
Yep.
But it requires a little, like, logistically, it's a little more planning, a little more effort. Which, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to grow soft either.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I need to do things, even in just, like, daily life. If I got to go out in the yard and do something and it's 10 degrees outside, and, you know, I would normally throw on a jet. Sometimes I don't throw on a jet. I'm just like, I'm just going to suffer for 2 minutes just so I don't turn into, like, a little, So, like, I do that once in a while, and I sometimes think about that with camping as well, like overlanding. It's like every once in a while I'll just, like, sleep in the bed of the truck or something, just to
change it up,
change things up a little bit.
I don't want to get soft.
I don't want to get I don't want to get too soft. Like, I want to be comfortable, but I don't want to be too comfortable all the time.
You might be in the wrong spot at Free Spirit, because we're, like, going for supreme comfort in all of our tents.
Well, no, that's how it is. When I want to be comfortable, 90% of the time, might as well max comfort. We're heated blanket, quilt, this, that. Yeah, give it to me. 10% of the time, I'll sleep in the gravel.
Just that
stay hard.
You know.
But who cares? I'm way softer now.
I'm like, cold plunge is like as much suffering as I want to do. That's plenty for me.
Are you doing cold plunge stuff yet?
Nah, man. Like, I talk about wanting to stay hard, but not that hard. Like, I don't want to subject myself to daily misery. Right. Like, once in a while, I will. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I bought a sauna so that I could get in there easier. So I don't know what that says about me, but I mean, I was I got to get.
It's supposed to be good health benefits.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten sick since I've had it. So
I think it's addicting once you start doing it. Like, and if you can get your, like, it's just a mental, like, you just got to get over it mentally. Stick your feet in and you just have to get in. But it's like that mental barrier of doing something hard and just, like, forcing yourself to do it. And then the benefits, maybe, like, there's not that much to cold plunge stuff, and it maybe I mean,
I think some physically, but a lot of, like, mental benefits. Like, you conquer. It's what they say. I was never in the military, but it's kind of a thing that's popular in that culture, is like making your bed, for instance, at the beginning of the day, because you're checking off, you're starting your day strong. I did one thing. So cold plunge is kind of like, if I overcame putting myself through misery for 2 or 3 minutes or whatever, then anything else that I have throughout the day is, like, easy in comparison. I don't do it, so I'm talking like third person.
I see the Instagram dads in Russia that are like, they go out at like 5:30 in the morning, they just, like, dunk these little kids in the ice bath, and it's like, okay, run back inside. It's like 6-year-olds.
It's supposed to be good for them.
It's like,
I mean, it definitely helps wake you up. It helps you wake you up. I mean, when you look around with everything that's going on, I think that there's a lot of people that are like, don't get soft. Don't get soft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fight
but
as hard as you
I
can.
don't go too far down that path, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Well, I mean, it's just too easy to be so soft now. I mean, we just have everything at our fingertips. You get food delivered with Uber Eats. It's just, you got to do some hard shit. You know?
Yeah. And there's a lot. I mean, even just, like, working out is, okay, I'm putting some stress on my body.
Right.
So, like, just putting stress on the body is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Madison always tell me, if I'm cranky or whatever, she's like, "Have you worked out today? Okay, you should probably go do that now. Like, we'll pick this up later."
It's
you
the
know,
guy
like,
equivalent of, have you had enough water today?
I like to say it. I'm like, God, I'm a psycho, but I just need to get it.
You've always been
out,
that way,
but-
though. That's always been everybody, you got to figure out your stress relief in life or whatever. I think yours is physical activity.
Yeah.
you know.
And I feel like yours might be going on the range or going and being alone with
Put a headphone in or put me in honey milk, and that's my 2 releases. Like, I got to work on something even though I'm trying to relax.
Right.
I do something hard trying to relax, kind of a oxymoron, but putting myself through hell elk hunting is like one of the most refreshing things in a sense.
It's
I
good
know.
because
lose like
you have
20
like a
pounds.
singular purpose.
Right.
Like in your
Right.
day to day, you're juggling 400 things. When you're hunting, there's one task.
Right.
And like
And no cell
that's
signal.
that's what matters. And I have one task, and there's kind of a, not a clear path to it, but you know what to do,
Yeah.
and that's the goal. At the end, like a normal day for me, I don't know what my goal. I have like 40 goals
Right.
in any
Right.
given day, and
Yeah.
that's what's kind of like overwhelming, I think.
I
Yeah,
agree
it's
with that.
always could have gotten 10 more things. You wish there was 10 more hours in the day, and
Yeah.
I think everybody needs that. Like, go do something, find whatever that is. And I think a lot of it, or for a lot of people in our industry, and it's camping. They want to go out, they want to get away and just focus on hanging out, camping, going,
Being
just
outside.
relaxing. Because
Yeah.
mentally is very nice.
Yeah, it's what
Yeah.
everyone talks about. It's like a good reset, especially most people that are in, the Monday through Friday grind.
Yeah.
Just want to reset, want to kind of shut everything off and, just de-stress so I can go back on Monday.
Well, and if you're in Colorado, I mean, like, since we've lived here, my wife and I, it's like, it's hard to get together with people on the weekends in Colorado because everybody's leaving Denver and going somewhere. So it's like, if you're not camping, or if in the winter you're not skiing, or you're not doing that stuff, it's like, it's a community that's out on the weekends.
Yeah.
And it's like they're experiencing Colorado, they're doing it, or going to Moab, just quick weekend trips, but it's all seems to be a reset for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Colorado more than most places
Yeah.
is of that. Like the weekends are for, kayaking or fishing or backpacking or camping or whatever.
What do you think as far as like the whole overlanding thing and kind of the stigma that either, like the hunters are like, oh, I don't want to be an overlander. And it's like, dude, truck racks are the only thing that came out that made it overlanding.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's changed.
I don't know. I think anybody that stresses over that stuff is a loser, honestly. Like, just who cares
Right,
about
do you,
the term or whatever? If, I can't get a rooftop tent because I don't want to be an overlander.
Yep.
Dude, that's on you. Like, work yourself out, get some therapy, whatever. If it makes the activity you're trying to do more enjoyable, easier, more accessible. For me, like a huge reason I love rooftop tents is how easy it is. Both, like if it's on your vehicle all the time, super easy. If you got to put it on, a little more work, but I don't need to go find a spot that is completely level or that doesn't have rocks or whatever, find a good place for the footprint of my ground tent or what. I just throw an extra rock under the back left tire of my truck and now I'm level.
Yep.
So it makes it easier. So if there's a thing like a rooftop tent that has a very practical, concrete benefit, and you're afraid to do it because of the stigma around it, get some help.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. I mean, like, I totally agree with that. I talked to a guy yesterday on the phone, and it was like, man, like, this is the perfect application for you. Once we started talking about what are you doing, that changes how you're using a rooftop tent, which rooftop tent you get. Like, if you're fly fishing or you're on the move all the time, like if you're overlanding, sightseeing, you probably don't want to fold out. Maybe you want just a clamshell or Odyssey or Evolution, just quick up and down. But then, like, with a family, you may want to fold out because you're not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go hike a 14er. You know, it's like, chill out, have a great time with your family.
Some cases, a ground tent probably is the right answer for you. Like the big ones, especially, or the doubles. It's like, for me, I'm kind of getting into, like, if I had to go camp in the last 4 years and I had to set up a ground tent, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why am I doing this?
No one's
Like,
excited about it.
yeah, but like now I'm gonna have some like little kids running around and stuff, and I'm like, okay, maybe ground tent, kind of just set up in a spot. They're kind of running in and out or grabbing this or whatever. They're not having to go up and like that makes more sense for some applications as well. But like very rarely am I gonna go on like a trip by myself with my friends, and I'm like, ground tent's the way.
Tent's the way,
Yeah.
When we started doing that as secondary shelters, because we've never really done annexes, and I think it's an interesting topic of why we haven't done annexes, and it's really because I don't care which tent company it is, they're all frustrating to set up.
Oh, yeah.
Again, and it's like making that experience that should be so good, not good. So we went the hub tent route to do secondary shelters, which is what you're talking about. And like, yeah, whether it's keeping your dogs in there, like, hey, I just want to chill by the fire, dogs and nuts, just put them in the hub tent. Or it's like
If you're
playpen
somewhere
for the
there's tons of
kids.
mosquitoes or whatever, like they offer some benefits. But yeah, I think if there's a piece of gear that has some stigma around it, but you're like, actually that gear would help for whatever I'm trying to do, just get it. I mean, if you can.
What's your
budget for it.
thoughts on annexes?
I've never used them because I hate setting up.
Yeah.
Like I hate.
Yeah.
But that's kind of different people are, and I'm not saying I'm right and other people are wrong, but I want to just set up as quick as, like, I don't go camping to set up.
Yeah.
I also don't go camping to cook. Like Jason or friends, like some people enjoy it, the process of it, and that's fine. Awesome. I like going camping with those people, as a matter of fact, because I get to eat their food. But I don't. Like, do I want to prep and cut and season and bake and cook and time? And no, man.
You're
Like,
the guy that comes to the potluck with
Brit-
nothing.
Dude, no, I'll come with like a pie from Costco or cookies. Like, I'll bring stuff, but I don't like. I got better things to do, and better things to do is condescending. Probably, I don't have better things to do. I would rather stare at the fire than cook.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather hang out and look at the clouds than prepare a meal.
Yeah.
And I would rather look at the clouds than set up an annex.
Right.
But it's also because I've never had, like, some people maybe have a reason for it.
Right.
I don't know what that maybe if you're in the Pacific Northwest and it's raining all the time and you're like, I just need to expand where I can hang
stuff
out.
hangs out.
Because it's like, it's either if it's just raining and miserable, I need a place.
Yep.
And for them, maybe an annex is better. Or they're like, my dogs need to sleep in an annex room.
Right.
For them, annex is better.
Yep.
Or I need a place to change or set up a toilet. Annex is good.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been the case for me. Like, I've just never needed that, really.
I would say I haven't either. It just...
We haven't made it a big thing because both of us don't really like them, which maybe maybe we should, but I think we used to have them, and you're talking 10-minute setup time with all the guidelines and all that stuff.
At least.
And it's like,
10 minutes on the low end.
everything we do, we try to do, fast, easy. When you get out there, it's stressful enough, especially if you got kids and all that stuff. It's like, we don't want to add that level. So it's like, pop the hub tent up if that's where you want your community thing.
Yep.
That's how we've always kind of done it, is like, this is the cooking hangout space. If you're not by the fire, and then go get in your tent when you're ready to sleep,
I've never looked at a tent as, like, I've never, like, even in all my backpack hunting days, like, it was always a one-man tent, the lightest I can get. Like, I was going in there to hang out when the weather was terrible and I needed to get away.
Yeah.
But it was like, whenever that happened, everything else stopped. So it's not like the fire kept going and everybody wanted to be around the fire.
Right.
Or it was like, you got into your tent and, like, it's a sleeping vessel. Like, I'm trying to help you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's black because it's cold at night. Like,
Right.
it's not for any other reason, and it looks good.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It's a place to sleep.
But I think they're cool. I think annexes are cool. Like, if every time I went and camped and I could just snap my fingers, or I had like a little buddy, like I hired an annex guy to come with me,
Sherpa?
and like he set my annex up, I'd probably do it.
Right.
Like, seems kind of cool, but
Yeah.
like just the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze so far. Like, extra stuff I got to bring. I don't know. I do think they're cool.
Hopefully soon. I mean, my mind's been racing on it for a couple years, and hopefully this new one that we have coming out is gonna be that kind of like snap your fingers. It just works well and it's easy. It's kind of free spirits thoughts and how we do things that if it's not simple and it's going to be frustrating, it's not going to aid in you having a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And it's
I'm excited
again
about
like
that.
now that I like kids and stuff, maybe I will want it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll want like extra coverage and extra room and stuff. And again, when the weather sucks, I can see a benefit there.
Yeah.
But also the thing when the weather sucks, like, you know, half the time I'm camping, it's like my fingers are numb and everything. Like we live in Colorado
yeah.
again.
Sucks.
So it's like more zippers and more guy lines and hammering I don't know. It's just, it
you don't
adds
get
up.
that much more room. At least I've found is like you got like maybe a couple chairs, some stuff for your bags or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
that's about it. You can't get it too big. But
Yeah. And mostly I hang out by the campfire. Like, again, depends on what you're into. If you love to, like, I go camp to play cards or something. You just need a little spot
Right.
to, like, set up and, like, a couple friends and play cards or something.
Yeah.
That might be good.
Yeah.
But I don't do that
Yeah.
either.
I
So.
know. I mean, I play cards, but
do not even try to get me to play cards or a board game.
Well,
and you and your wife like
Yeah,
that
or board
shit.
games.
I'm like,
I
no.
watched you do puzzles.
Puzzles are different. And it's a
Annex
little bit of a
puzzle room.
solo endeavor. I don't really like doing them with other people either. Like, drives me nuts.
Do people do joint puzzles? Like,
I mean,
I
in
guess
the,
you
like
could.
Christmas
Yeah,
time,
around the corner.
Yeah, we did a
okay.
couple at Christmas this
we
year.
did do a couple
Yeah.
at Christmas, but
Which
we also play some heated card games. I mean, like our family's good at cards. They love to
Yeah.
play pitch, and you and I are not. I'm like, let's play blackjack or 31 or something
Yeah.
super fast paced like War.
I
You
get
wanna play
by
War?
the. What do we play? Where you put the little tiles?
Sequence.
Sequence.
Mm.
I could play that game.
Okay.
Get a
well,
little
those are
strategy,
mindless
competitive,
games,
like
and then you can put some strategy in it.
yeah,
Well, there you go. You play
Yeah.
sequence in an annex in the rain.
yeah.
Maybe,
Perfect.
Great scenario.
maybe it'll be a camping date that we have to play at the potluck. Do you know when that is, by the way? Has Jason put a time on? When the
I don't know.
potluck
Is he doing one?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I
If
feel like he's
not,
been
maybe we
kind
should.
of radio silent for a while.
He just bought a place in Louisiana, I think.
Yeah,
Oh,
a little
really?
river place.
Yeah.
Driving his Porsche around now.
I hadn't seen him in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to get him to cook some stuff.
Come make us some burgers.
Yeah.
But I do like awnings.
The awnings are
Awnings
seeming
are
to
cool.
work. You've done 270 and 180 based on vehicles, right?
Yeah, I've kind of played with them both.
Do you have a preference?
I don't know. Probably ideally like on a truck where you're hanging out on the tailgate and stuff, a 270 would be
Mhm.
better. And then like an SUV that already has a hatch that opens probably a 180.
Yeah, I see it the same way. I'm a bigger fan of 180s than I am 270s because of how far they come out off the vehicle.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm sitting under it, it's like I'm either in the sun or I'm out of the sun. Like, I want to be out, you know, like I want shade. So it's got to be big enough and long enough. And a 180 gets you farther away from the vehicle to have more hangout space on one side.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't really know. It's kind of hard to, like, I've never really seen like a semi-transparent top from the top, like overlay to really show how much more off the
okay.
side a 180 has. Because when you think of it, you're just like, oh, a 270 is just a 180 plus more.
Mhm.
But it's not,
Right.
actually.
Yeah.
It's less and then some on the back.
Yep.
So I didn't really think about, because I've not run awnings again. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of fast and quick and easy and whatever. But now that I've ran them, I'm like, oh, actually, I always just assumed 270s were better in every situation
Yeah.
because they're just seems like they have more. But really, 180s kind of arguably better for.
That's what
There's
I
more
think.
square footage coverage with
Square
180 than our
footage.
270.
Yeah, because you come
And-
with a 270, you basically, like, I try to explain to people, like, if you're coming, like, if you were to open your vehicle door and you were to set 2 chairs, you got about 5 feet away from the vehicle that awning extends.
Yeah.
On a 180, you got 7 feet.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's like another chair. That's another 2-foot walk space. So if you're hanging out under it, or if you got a room, in the 270, your biggest spot of that tent is in the back triangle, like off the right side of the tailgate.
That corner.
Yeah.
the big
Which isn't
corner.
really like a hangout spot. It's like
Right,
for
right.
cooking on the tailgate or whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's one thing I didn't really. I mean, I guess I kind of knew it, maybe subconsciously, but really, there's a difference on usable covered space.
Yep.
Well,
I'd
you're
say the
like
180s
most
better.
people because we sell way more 270s than 180s, and even people with SUVs, it's like, hey, you know, that 180 might be a better choice for you. And they're like, nah, I want the 270. You're like, okay, here you go.
Well, I'm trying
It's
to fix
cool.
that with
It's
the next
fine.
one.
And I think 270s are cool. I don't know, something about the two, like, oh yeah, extra, extra
right.
90 degrees, pretty sick. But 180s might be a better option for a lot of people.
I think they're going to be. I think people will find value in the 180s that we're coming out with, and I think they'll find value in the 270. But it's different use cases. I think that's one of the hardest things about, when we field calls, when we talk to people. If we can talk about use case, it almost points you in a better direction than like what you think you need.
Yeah.
It's like, talk to us about what you're doing, and that'll change things in my brain when I talk to you about whether you want High Country King or you want Evolution. It's
Yeah,
like,
what problem are you trying to
doing?
solve?
Exactly.
You're trying to go
Yeah.
fast and easy, maybe a wedge is
Yeah.
right. You're trying
Yeah.
to get maximum space on a minimum footprint,
Yep.
High Country or whatever. And then I think the other thing with awnings that has always been kind of a pain to me and I've never wanted to mess with is, especially when you're combining it with a rooftop tent. It's like, okay, well, I need two mounting mechanisms that need to be compatible, and this bracket needs to fit under the tent, and it needs to open in a way that doesn't interfere with whatever So there's kind of a lot of logistics involved in getting these two things to work together.
Yep.
Versus, I haven't even run it, but the bracket that mounts to
The tent.
tents is kind of sick.
Yeah, it makes it easy.
Because it's I don't have to think about it. It's just, it mounts in one point, and everything works
Yep.
together. So that kind of ecosystem, if you want to call it, where the awning just mounts to the tent, actually would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you combine it with if you have a hoist in your garage or whatever and you want to lower, then it's just one attachment point
Yep.
for the whole camp setup, lift it off and it's off. And
How much do you do of that? Like taking stuff on and off? How important is your garage setup for what you do of being organized and different stuff like that? How
I
do you
used
do
to do it a lot more, and I think for the average person, probably it's relatively important. There's so many different people have so many different use cases. It kind of relies on having a garage or a carport or something to house it. Like if you live in an apartment complex or something, or you don't have a garage, you don't have space, then it's kind of a
Leave it on all
moot
the
point. But if you have one vehicle and you're kind of using it for multiple things, I had for a long time, I just had my Tacoma, and I was using it for truck stuff, and I was using it for camping, and I was using it, sometimes needed an open bed, sometimes a closed bed, sometimes camping.
Yeah.
In that scenario, I used it kind of a lot because I was kind of putting the tent on and off, and again, it was time is valuable, so I want the quickest way, and a lot of times I'm by myself, so I don't have a buddy to lift it off and move it.
Yeah.
So a hoist makes a lot of sense, I think, for a lot of use cases if you have a place to put it.
Well, we're seeing a lot of the hoists, and if people are looking for hoists and garage systems, I don't know if you have a recommendation. We've seen looking up topper hoists now is really what you need to look up for rooftop tents. It's those have advanced a lot in the last 2 years.
Yeah, the last 2 years I haven't, because I've been building my house and moving and everything, but probably in this year I'll be looking into them a little more, what hoist is good, because I'd like to put some in the barn I built, so I can switch systems.
Yeah.
Right now I have a tractor with a forklift on it.
Yeah.
I just use
John
that.
Deere? What'd you get?
I have a Kubota.
Kubota?
But
Runs like a champ.
yeah, so I've been just forklifting my own stuff on and off all the time.
Nice.
But hoists are great.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a system where it's just the whole camp. They're kind of like trailers. You just have it ready to go and you take it.
Yep.
For the especially tent awning combo, I think that'd be a really cool
For sure.
hoist scenario.
Yeah.
Where you just have the whole thing, drop it back down.
You've always run Diamondback, right?
On trucks,
On
yeah.
trucks.
Yeah, I mean, not always, but for the last 6-7 years probably.
And so, have you found it with Diamondback? I haven't ran a Diamondback yet. I've seen you guys run them. There's more use cases that match up with what I do than maybe running a full height. But I go back and forth testing.
Yeah,
tents,
sometimes a cap makes more sense. A cap is very cool, and if that kind of checks your boxes, then it's great. I have done a lot of I like to. It actually all spawned from needing to fit into a 7-foot garage.
Okay.
When I first got into like rooftop tents in my Tacoma and rooftop, like I was like, can I put a rooftop? I can't even put a rooftop tent on top because then I can't even go in my garage. So it was spawned out of necessity at the time, where I was like, I need a short. I need my whole setup to fit in a 7-foot garage. Yeah. So I couldn't put a cap and a tent on top. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of developed into well, I have this, now how can I store gear like max track, shovels, all this crap I don't really want inside. Yeah. And then the benefit of the Diamondback for me was like everything is kind of like that I use is like bin shaped or like in a bin. Yeah. Or like a fridge or whatever, and that all just goes under the tonneau cover. I close it down, it's out of the weather, I don't got to think about it, I don't got to think about if I got to go to Walmart or whatever before or after. People are seeing all this stuff in my bed and stealing it out. So that use case has just kind of, it spawned from a necessity, and now I just kind of really like how it works, how I use it. And especially for like daily driver stuff, if I got to go to Costco or whatever and haul a bunch of toilet or whatever, you know, just throw it in there, close it up, don't think about it. Right. Nobody sees it. It's secure. Can put a tent on top. So it's kind of a really good dual use setup.
And you did it on your new Tundra too, because like I remember we were talking about you're like carrying 8-foot boards, and it's like nice. Has it been a good thing in construction too? Yeah,
there's kind of a side benefit of the Diamondback. I have like a low rack system, 4-inch tall rack system or whatever. And if you have a rear window in your truck, it's very easy to carry like 16-foot boards now.
Trim boards.
Because, trim boards, 2x6s, whatever, in there, because it rests on the rack and then can go into the cab and you can strap it down. And a 16-foot board is historically really, unless you have like a ladder rack up on top, you can't carry a 16-foot board in a bed, realistically. No. A short bed. Yeah. Like no chance. So you're either throwing that on roof racks on top of an SUV or throwing it on roof racks of some sort. But the low rack system with an opening back window may be a niche use case, but it's common for me.
I mean, I bought my Tundra because of the back window.
Yeah.
That's why I drive a Tundra, is for the back window.
Yeah, so I do that quite a bit, honestly. Yeah. So kind of it's been a pretty some people think of it as limiting because now I can't transport a fridge in there. Well, it takes 4 bolts to pull off, and then you can, if you need to. I'm not transporting fridges that much. Yeah. If you're in the business of transporting fridges a lot, neither a cap nor a tonneau cover, maybe like a fold up, like a Retrax or something. Maybe that's. Yeah. But I'm not. Right. So in the once a year when I need to do it, it's 5 minutes to take it off, and I do it. Yeah. But it opens up. $19.99 at Home Depot. Yeah. Rent it.
Rent a truck.
Or hook my trailer up. God forbid. But it's been a really versatile piece for me. Yeah.
I'd really like to see that. I mean, I'd love to see them get more rack options, more attachment options for the Diamondback, as far as being able to run a Lightner, being able to run all these different companies, because I think that it's one of my favorite looks. I'm like, I'm a look guy.
It looks good. I like it. Yeah, aesthetics is good. Yeah, when I just see a truck with a Diamondback and maybe like a low profile rack system, I like the look of that truck. I do too. Like as just kind of a daily driven truck. Like when I have that, when my truck is in that setup, I'm like, looks good.
Looks mean.
Yeah, looks good.
It looks good.
Yeah,
I mean, there's kids.
There's pros and cons, but
we're still high school kids putting 37s on Grand Cherokees
instead of underglow.
And you evolve. That's what they say, especially in SoCal. Like all the previous generation of like Fast and Furious racer underglows, they're all Overlanders now. Right. Like that, it has like the upward, the trend, the evolution of those people is now in Foreigners and Tacomas with, lights and bumpers. It's kind of been that way.
That's awesome.
What do you think your like favorite piece of gear that you carry that's like, maybe it's like a small thing, or I don't know, it doesn't have to be rooftop tents and Diamondback stuff, but like, do you have something you're like, I can't leave the house?
Piece of gear? Yeah, actually I have it. A Leatherman Skeletool. Not sponsored by Leatherman. Of all the years of, and I'll just kind of talk crap, of all the years of just like companies sending me stuff and wanting to work. Leatherman Skeletal I have loved so much for many years. There's kind of a subculture of gear that are in the space. It's called EDC. Everyday Carry, it stands for. It's got a huge following. Everyone just wants to see people's EDCs. What are you carrying? What's in your pot? What flashlight you got? What wallet? What little keychains? But the Skeletal has been, and I'm a tinkerer. I'm a gear guy. I'm always messing with this, putting a clip on, removing, messing with the holster. And I use the pliers and like the screwdrivers and everything on this piece so much. And I have tried every multi-tool from every manufacturer, and I keep coming back to the Skeletal. I say it jokingly because I literally can't even get a free Skeletal from Leatherman. Like I've probably sold more of two things. Like if I could get a commission for Tacomas that I've sold, I'd be the richest guy in Colorado, right? Like but I have sold so many Skeletals, and I love it. And even though I can't get any love from the brand, like literally even a free tool, I still like kind of harp on how much I love this tool.
Yeah.
So like as far as gear goes, Skeletal is probably that piece of kit for me. Just because I use
You'll
it.
probably never get a free one from them because they're like, this is just too good. The guy talks about it all the time.
Yeah,
I don't have
maybe.
to do anything.
And I now am to the point where I talk crap about them all the time. So, but honestly, great tool. I don't know anything about the company. I don't care to know anything about the company at this point. But a great tool, made in America too. So
Yeah.
they're cool.
What that little topic right there, made in America? Like, what's, we obviously have in the overlanding space, a lot of it is overseas. There's some made here, but like I think everybody wants it to be here, but doesn't understand just how out of touch it would be if it was here.
It's tough. It's a tough topic. I would always, if I could, choose made in America, but at what point? Would I pay $10,000 for a tent with the same features for made in America instead of $3,000?
Yep.
Tough to say. I probably wouldn't, and most people probably wouldn't. So when it makes sense, like in the knife world, some manufacturing is good, like Magpul, for instance, a firearms accessory manufacturer, injection molding essentially, and they have the capabilities to do that in America. Pelican cases, there's some manufacturing in knives
That we can do well
that we
here.
can do pretty good. Like you get a Chinese knife versus an American knife, they're not that big difference in price points, honestly.
Right.
So certain manufacturing capability, and I think this is something that not everyone understands, and I'm not deep into manufacturing. I don't even understand like how deep it goes, but there are certain things where American manufacturing is easy and makes sense. Can you do a rooftop tent in America in addition to all of the textiles and all of the supporting componentry? You could, but the infrastructure is not really there.
It's
Like
gonna be
textiles
it's gonna be a red
especially.
tail.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to do. So at some point there needs to be somewhat of a compromise, I guess. And this isn't me saying like we need to move all our manufacturing to China or whatever.
Right.
But like maybe it's a slow evolution, or maybe you try to start getting some stuff made here. But logistically, like clothing and some manufacturing is really hard to do in America.
Right.
And you got some companies like Origin or something trying to
I love their boots.
bring manufacturing back to America. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And
Boots are not cheap either.
Sometimes, and you pay for it. You pay for that, and some people are willing to pay for it. And some, I would say, some industries are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
Some people are, I want to buy this product made in America. Some industries aren't that way.
Right.
Because they're not like in the outdoor space, it ain't a thing.
Right.
Like backpacking, camping, like none of this stuff
Kelty
is.
backpacks, I don't think are made here. Like
No, very few. Very few products are, and they come at a crazy premium. So I don't want to tiptoe around it. Would I choose made in America if it was logistically and feasibly possible? Absolutely. Yeah. But sometimes it's not, or sometimes maybe it's a slow evolution of sorts.
Right.
But it's a completely different business model.
Right.
That it's a completely different undertaking.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to speak to that side of things because I'm not in that side of things, but I understand at least a little bit of what is involved with
I always
it.
tell people that I don't think people understand maybe as much stuff that they buy that is actually made in China and they're really happy with it, because there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And that's kind of where we fall in that equation, is like, we've been doing it for so long at the same place. Like, we're very confident in what we have.
Yeah. Can you build a better product over there? That's the other fallacy, is like, there is a lot of really cheap crap made in China, obviously. A lot of cheap crap going to fall. But the highest end stuff, your MacBooks, your iPhone, like, they have wildly advanced. You can manufacture stuff in China you can't manufacture in the U.S. Like, it's not even possible. So there's kind of, a fallacy that if it's made in China, it's junk. It certainly can be.
Right.
But it also can be the highest end stuff ever.
Yep.
So there's
and
also,
you're getting a better value by that person doing it that way versus making this MacBook in the United States and it costing you $20,000 because Americans want.
Yeah, you make the MacBook in America, the infrastructure that you would have to go through to even make that possible would MacBooks
insane.
would cost $30,000 each,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
So there's again, we have gotten pretty into it, but without getting too into it.
Yeah,
it's
fine.
nice to think
Yeah.
about. It's nice to talk about, but hard to do, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
And there are some, rooftop tents made in America, or at least largely assembled and stuff in America. And there's always kinds of a trade-off. They're usually much more simplistic designs.
Yeah.
Like easier, like feature.
Less feature rich.
Yeah, not feature rich, kind of, I guess. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think there's definitely a trade-off.
Yeah, they're always, I think that's perfect.
But I don't know enough about it to really talk to in depth.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on the topic. I think, with the way that we are, we would choose that if that path was feasible.
Yeah. And a lot of it's, I think, like, people are concerned about, where's my money going? And some of that comes down to, there are Chinese companies that are manufacturing in China, and then there are U.S. companies that have manufacturing partners in China or whatever. So, like, where is the money going at the end of the day? Well, some of it's going to China, obviously, but a lot of it's not.
Yeah.
So, like, when you can, if you're gonna deal with a Chinese-made company, maybe you work with an American company that's making their stuff in China or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
right.
as a compromise. But I don't know. There are people that harp all day about that, and I'm kind of I have a more realistic view of things, I guess.
I like to know, like, who I'm buying from.
Yeah.
Right. Like, with whatever it is, I kind of want to know, like, like, if I call a company and I have a great conversation with them, I feel really comfortable about it, then it, like, helps it. But, like, if I call the company and, like, somebody not in the U.S. answered, I'd be like, I immediately was not as comfortable with that purchase, or I changed my mind. And, like, we're seeing that happen. Like, they're trying in all the different industries to bring their brands over here and do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think it's going to come down to, like, the people connection. Like, I think maybe one of the reasons that you're at Free Spirit is partly because the people were right down the road from you.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's all work together to do something cool. But it's not that way with the other companies that are trying to bring their own brand to the United States from China. It's very different.
Yeah. And I think, manufacturing aside, like, when purchasing a higher ticket item, you want to know that, well, am I going to be able to have service? Am I going to be able to have customer support? If I have a question, if this thing breaks, is there a fix? Are you going to help me? Can I buy a replacement? For you guys, I've worked with, a handful of different companies in the past, and I don't have any negative things to say about any of them. But one of the reasons I wanted to come here was, because I live here. Mm-hmm. You're close, right down the street, can come, I can hang out, we can bounce ideas off of each other. You have a prototype, you need feedback, I can come and test it out.
Yeah.
Logistically, I can't do that with every company. So working with local companies is super convenient. And also, I feel like I am a value add in the sense of, like, I'm a gear guy. I use gear. I like gear. I know how to make things better. I know what doesn't work, at least for me anyway. Yeah. And then I can articulate that. I work with some companies. They make great stuff. They don't they don't care what I have to say.
Yeah.
Like we're the designers. We're gonna make what we want to make exactly how we want to make it. And if that works for you, cool. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
sucks to be you.
Yep.
And not that, again, I don't place any high importance, like, oh, my ideas are the best, but it's nice to be able to give some feedback.
Well,
and
that's
say,
what we want.
Yeah, so that's kind of what brought me over here was, well, let's like do some cool things, and
Yeah.
I'll provide some feedback. You utilize me as an asset for the guy that's out camping all the time, and then logistically you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, and that's what I think we're most excited about, because I think that some of the compliments that I hear from other people in the industry is like, we're focused on tents, but we're focused on making tents better. Like we're always tinkering with ours to make them a little bit better, but we haven't really changed our frames.
Yeah.
Our frames have stayed the same because we know that's good. And
Yeah.
then it's like, now I feel like with you being here, like we're getting more focused on like the little replacement parts, like, and we're growing as a company with that of like, hey, we're Toyota for longevity, we're Jeep for we're kind of like Jeep and Mopar for replacement parts, on the trail fixes.
Yeah.
Can you get it from Free Spirit? That's a reason to buy from that company, because you're not getting that with the Amazon companies. You're not getting replacement parts.
Yeah, it's good.
Shit's
It's
gonna
nice.
break.
It's nice to have someone you can contact if an issue arises or if you have questions or whatever that is here.
Yeah.
So that's hugely beneficial
And
as well.
your experience, like off-roading, things are going to rattle loose. Things are going to
Yeah.
bolts are going to come out. Like it happens on racks. It happens on just torture of a lot of this stuff. So you're more on like, hey, things are going to happen in my daily life, so you need to be prepared for them. It's like your tool.
Yeah.
It's like thinking that way when you get into this kind of world that we're marching down. Like, I don't know if you're taking your awning 100 miles an hour in a Raptor and it's bouncing and all that. Like, you can't test for everything, but things are going to happen. Can you talk to that a little bit? Like your experience with like all the companies you've worked with.
Oh, that just things are going to break?
Things are going to happen. Like you've represented great companies and things still happen.
Yeah, it's with anything that has moving pieces and nuts and bolts and things, you're going to have, like I've broken tons of things. Not necessarily because the product was bad, just because it gets abused. And over time, if I didn't check my bolts or my nuts or whatever, then something's gonna rattle loose. So yeah, it's will it kill the trip? Can I make a field repair? Is it still usable? Things like that. But with anything, I think when you take up off-roading or overlanding or just driving on washboard roads as a hobby, you're gonna need to just check things, because things will rattle loose all the time.
We see that
I mean,
a lot.
whether that's suspension components or whether that's your rack system or what, all of it.
Yeah, you got to have your little checklist before you go out. That's kind of part of being prepared for accidents not to happen. Is like, if you're going to leave your rooftop tent up there all the time, like, man, check it more than once every 4 months.
Yeah.
Make sure it's good.
Yeah, if there's a rattle, don't let it, like, if you hear a rattle or something moving around, don't be like, it's probably nothing. It's probably something. It's probably something. So try and track it down. So I would say, I mean, even as little as getting up there once in a while and just like kind of tugging on it. Like, all right, feels good.
Right.
Like at least that.
At least
Before you're gonna like huck your Raptor like through Baja.
17 hours.
You
should probably check it before you leave.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I repack all my hunting gear before I go on a hunting trip, and it's like if you leave, like I'm checking everything before I go.
But that's what I'm also like on, I guess, a related note. I'm a little anal about like rattles and creaks and stuff like that. Like I don't like any. Like if you drive in pretty much any car I own, there's no rattles. Like even if I'm like when I drive in my wife's car and she's got, maybe it's like a lipstick jingling around in the glove box. I'm like, what is going on in here, bro? Like, let's track this. And
she leaves that
she'll
one
attest
in
to
your
it.
car after midnight, and
something
you're
like that.
This is not supposed to be in here.
So if I hear something like rattling or making noises, it will be something's wrong. Like something's loose, something's not right. So I think that's probably a good thing to do for most people that are going to have, you're going to have stuff. Like if you load out your full kitchen set in the back of your 4Runner, you're probably going to have some rattles, but kind of like learn to know what those are, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I want to change topics a little bit because we're going to do this podcast / episode that's about like a Mythbusters episode for camping. And so we're gonna kind of talk through just common myths of people that maybe they're new or they don't know. Do you have any like things you hear people say you're like, that's not real? And I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because
I don't know. We would have to get into specific topics, but as a whole, I hear a lot of, because again, I was kind of not an early adopter. People have been using rooftop tents forever, but like on social media, on YouTube, kind of a early adopter-ish of like rooftop tents. So I've heard it from the very beginning of like, that's stupid, that's too much weight, that's more work. And I'm like, almost all of those things are wrong. Right. Because, and I've tried to put this into videos where, again, there are pros and cons, obviously, to a rooftop tent and a ground tent, but there are people out there that just think a ground tent is better in every scenario than a rooftop tent. And that's not the case at all for what I like to do. Right. We live in the Rocky Mountains. They're pretty rocky. And when I go camp, I would say at least 75% of the places that I camp normally, I couldn't set up a ground tent. Right. Like it's not level, there's too many rocks, or I'd have to spend like 30 minutes moving all these rocks out of the place. I rip the ground cover on the tent probably when I'm setting it up, and then I'd like step on it. So that, like for me, or it's muddy, right? We live in snow melt or after a rain or whatever. A lot of times maybe there's a spot to set up ground, but it's muddy, and then I got to spray that thing off after, and I don't want to do that. So for me, it's like the hassle of finding a spot to put a ground tent, finding a level spot. Like I can almost always get my truck level with enough rocks or enough max tracks or enough whatever. The spot could be at a 30 degree, but I could probably get my sleeping arrangement level. Yeah. And I don't need to be perfectly level, but level enough to where I could sleep. Yeah. And it's just physically not possible with a ground tent. So I would say when people talk about rooftop tents versus ground tents of saying like, oh, ground tent's better in every way, I think there are some ways that a ground tent is better.
Yeah. So you said something about weight. What do you think about weight? We get people asking like, is this going to be too much on my vehicle? Am I going to like tip over kind of a thing?
Yeah. I mean, there's some valid concerns there. Like if you're using an OEM roof rack, they're rated to a certain dynamic load. Right. And if your tent is beyond that load, they've baked in a margin of error and you'll probably be fine. But again, off-roading, you might not be. Because off-road, like the dynamic forces of off-roading versus on-road, 5x more probably. And I don't know whether the OEM manufacturers have factored in like dynamic load of off-roading. So there are some valid concerns about weight, I think, for some rack systems. But if you have an aftermarket rack system up top is an aftermarket rack system. If you have an aftermarket rack system up top of your vehicle, those are usually, they have more attachment points, they're heavier rated. If you put it in the bed of the truck, you're most likely going to be fine because those are rated way heavier. So I would say the weight thing is not a huge concern. You are raising your center of gravity some. That can be a concern if you're doing some crazy off-camber stuff. For the most part, it's not going to be a concern. And again, I do like keeping my center of gravity lower, which is part of the reason I like kind of the low overbed rack height. Like I'm kind of keeping things below roof line. But again, probably not a huge concern. Right. I've never had an issue. It's kind of, I drive a vehicle, it's lifted, it's got softer suspension. I took my sway bars off of my Tacoma. Like I'm going to have more sway. I take that into consideration. So some of it is like, if you are changing things to your vehicle, you're going to change your vehicle dynamics. That's okay. Just got to take it in consideration.
Right.
Like if you're going to modify things, then you're going to modify things. But some of it is like there's a little bit of a trade-off with a rooftop tent, because if you take like a big tent and you take a mattress and you take a rain fly and you take whatever other provisions you need to set it up, that's going to take up room somewhere. Are you going to throw it on your roof? You're going to throw it in the back of your truck? You're going to throw it wherever? So the rooftop tent is kind of utilizing that space for all of your other stuff that would have had to go somewhere also. So, yeah, I think there are some valid concerns of weight and like being a little more top heavy. They're just things you got to factor in.
Yeah.
Are they deal breakers? Probably not for most people.
Do you think that, like, let's use your Tundra as an example, but like if you were building your Tundra to go to Alaska and you're going on an expedition, more of an expedition versus, you know, like I look more of the below cab height stuff as either technical off-roading or efficient weekend campers.
Yeah.
So would you build your Tundra different if you were going on like a 2-week trip? Would you go above cab height, you think, finally?
I'm not against going cab height even now.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on what I'm trying to do. Historically, I've just had tents that have worked for, 2 people. 2-person tent below cab height. That's a problem that can be solved without needing to go above cab height. If I need to sleep more people in my rooftop tent, I need more surface area, I need a bigger thing, then that's a problem that I'll solve by going above cab height. And it depends. If you want like a wedge type tent, if you want, most tents that are very quick and very easy to set up are going to be longer than a short bed truck.
Yep.
And in those instances, if you want that tent, you're going to have to go up above the bed again in most instances.
Right.
So it's kind of whatever problem you're trying to solve. Like you said, like when the customer comes to you, you're trying to figure out what problem are you trying to solve. Do you need to fit in a garage? Do you need to keep your miles per gallon as high as they can possibly go? Whatever. If you're trying to solve that problem, then below cab height. If you're trying to solve a different problem, above cab height.
Right.
So one thing, we talked about it earlier. Historically, I haven't used awnings. I have been like Colorado isn't super rainy. I don't need an awning for the snow. The sun isn't usually overbearing.
Right.
I haven't really the awning was just one extra thing I had to throw up there and not really think about. But now, family, more comfort. Maybe we set up some chairs. Maybe I want them out of the sun, whatever. As I think about an awning setup, and especially when paired with a tent, I see myself going above cab height to do both.
Yeah.
Because you can't not go above cab height and have an awning on a short bed truck.
Unless it's just for the kids.
Really.
Right.
Yeah. So there are, again, problems that I'm trying to solve that will, merit going above cab height.
Yeah.
It's not like this thing, oh, I can't go above cab height. Like it's a hard no for me, dog. It's more just I haven't really needed to, and it's worked well with me historically. But my life is evolving. My systems are evolving.
I think that's how it goes, though, right? Like it kind of changes. I see more of the expedition vehicles going above cab height when you're going out for a long time. It gives you more places to store things.
More
you can
room.
run awnings.
Yeah.
And
you open up more possibility. When you're low, you're effectively cutting a truck's theoretical storage in half, right? Now your rooftop tent is eating up the half the volume of what you could put in your truck.
Right.
If you go above, now you've opened up an entire room, whether that's you're running a cap or you're just putting stuff on top of a Diamondback or whatever it is.
Run a spare tire.
You're opening up more room. So yeah, I think a slick setup though would be above cab height on a truck with a 270 awning that gives me cover over the tailgate.
Yep.
I know we were talking about how 180s are maybe superior. For that setup, I think a 270 probably would be the way.
Little teaser. We may or may not be having something out for everybody that likes to, or something coming out for everybody that likes to cook over their tailgate.
Yeah.
It's been an ask for a long time. A lot of people aren't doing it, but we're going to bring it to you guys, and it's going to be like I think that section over your tailgate is where the 270 gets all the praise because people, that's the natural cooking place
Yeah.
to sit there and cook on your tailgate. Well, if it does rain or, whatever, you just like cooking, it's the easiest place to do it over your tailgate. It's the easiest place to make mixed drinks. Like pull your deck system out, use it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a cool product that may be like, hey, I don't run a 180 or a 270 because my use case is like, I love to cook. Like I bet Jason would only run this little 180 so he could cook over his tailgate.
Jason only go out when the weather's good.
Well,
Nah, I don't know.
he and I have something in common.
That's a lot of people.
If I'm not hunting in the weather, I deal with the really bad weather during the fall, and that's when I get all my days in. I don't usually get them in the summer.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm going on a 15-day elk hunt that I'm like, I'm using it in the cold, which is where Trilayer has kind of come to life, is like it's cold in Colorado.
Yeah.
And it's like that happens. And so I've never had too many people complain that they were like too hot in their tent at night. And it's like, open your windows in downtown Denver at night and you're going to be cold.
Yeah.
It's just the climate we live in.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting one too, where it's like, am I going to be too hot? Or you get these companies that will say, oh, we're 20% cooler than it is outside. And it's like,
Are you fucking
no
sleeping
shit,
during
it's
the day?
Shade.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's also like 15 degrees cooler in the shade than it is outside. So it's like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's the thing I haven't cared to. And again, I guess it's going to be like if you lived in Texas, your needs are going to be different. But I'm not hanging out in my tent during the day.
If you're in Texas, you need an air conditioner because
Yeah, you need an RV maybe. I don't know.
I mean, like your windows are the air conditioner in your rooftop tent. Like, sorry, like that's what it is. Like you got the natural breeze. If it's 80 outside, it's not going to be 60 in your tent without, like, that's not shade.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. So it's like, we're going to do a whole podcast on this. It's probably going to be a fun one. We probably should have you in here to just bust some myths and listen to really funny things that we hear. But that's one of them is like, is it going to be cooler in my tent? And it's be like, bro, if it's 90 outside, it's going to be 90 inside that tent unless you have an air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
that's
that's
nature.
physics.
Whatever
nature,
it is in the
right?
shade is what it's going to be, right?
Right.
Like it's
Park in the shade.
Yeah, park in the shade.
Sun rises on the east, sets on the west. Like, you want it to be really cold in the morning, pin yourself up some trees. You want it to be sunny at night, like, let that be your backdrop. Like, there's ways to do it. And I think some of it comes second nature to all of us.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily come second nature to the dad that's taking his kids out camping for the first time, which is what I think is really cool because it's what we remember from childhood.
Yeah.
But you got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, you can kind of work with the landscape, which is why I way prefer camping in the forest than in the desert.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of plan, well, I don't want to get hit. Like, I want to sleep in tomorrow.
Yep.
So that tree is east, or this cliff is east. And so I won't get blasted or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of, I always take that into consideration. I don't think everyone does, but I usually, if the campsite allows it, kind of like take time of day and where the sun's going to be into consideration before I'm setting up.
For sure.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, what else?
I don't know.
What else we
How
wanna
long you
run
guys
over?
usually go? We've been on for a while.
This might be the longest one, actually.
Yeah.
But-
I don't know. I've kind of been asking everybody just because, like, I don't have kids, right? But, like, I remember all the memories. So, like, I've kind of been asking people at the end of this, like, when you were a kid, now you're a parent, right? So it's like, but you remembered things as kids. So, like, what was the thing when you were a kid that got you into this? Like, what piqued your interest to be outside, be in the mountains, be into gear? Like, what did your parents do, or what fueled it, I guess, right?
I don't know. I think it's more important for, like, my generation to kind of imbue that into their kids. When I was a kid, when you were a kid, like, we weren't on our phones or tablets. Like, those literally didn't exist when I was a kid, right? So I was always outside just normally playing with friends and doing all that kind of stuff. And my parents were, like, they would be sad if they listened to this. I don't have any, like, great camping memories, but we went camping a lot. It was like, we went to a lot of national parks. We were like, my dad took me fishing a lot. Like I did a lot of outdoor stuff. Some of my best memories, actually, we had a minivan for a while that my dad thought was like a Jeep Wrangler probably. And we got that thing stuck, and he would just like huck it down any trail in this thing. And so I have some memories actually of things gone wrong when we were out in the woods more than going right.
Yeah.
But I look back on them fondly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was, that's
When
kind of
did your
cool.
dad let you drive for the first time?
I don't even remember. Like I don't have a specific memory of that. Like when I was driving younger, I'm sure he put me on his lap and I was driving, but I don't have any specific thing. I don't think my memory's that good though. Like I don't remember a lot. I don't remember. There's things I feel like I should remember better and I don't. But I feel like getting back to what I was kind of getting at. Like I had a great child. My parents were amazing and took me on many adventures. But I think it's almost more important now. Like again, how soft everyone. I don't want to be one of those. Oh, everyone's getting soft, but they are. And they're just in front of screens all the time. And I think it's important to take your kids out. And I'm gonna place a high value of importance. Not to have like I'm not one of those like my kids are never gonna have screen time. They already have. Cooper already likes certain TV shows and stuff. But I'm going to like give them, an adventurous life. I'm going to make them rough it. Like I'm looking forward to when my son's old enough to literally survive, like just going out and torturing him in the winter.
Right.
Like that's what, like I'm going to do some of that.
And then he's going to be like, hey dad, me and my friends, we're going to the mountains. They're in high school. They got their first Jeep or whatever, Toyota. And it's like, be like, dude, I used to do that. I'd be like, Dad, I'm leaving. I'm going hunting. I'll see you next weekend. It's like I was gone as a high schooler doing that stuff because I was comfortable being outside, but like that's what will happen. I think it's so cool. I mean, like that's why we're in this business, and it's because like we remember those memories and like we'll never forget them. And
we're fortunate. Like my first car was a Jeep Wrangler because I just liked that kind of stuff. But not everyone. Some people get into it. Like I didn't grow up like my dad never hunted. Not against hunting, but I didn't grow up in a hunting family. And some people didn't grow up in a camping family or an outdoor family or a fishing family. So it's kind of interesting to talk to these people. And again, I am one of these people, like in the hunting world, where something that is so natural to some people is completely foreign to other people. And camping is that way for some kids that their parents didn't take them camping. So it's like a much bigger step into, oh man, like almost debilitating. I don't know if I can go camping. I've never done it. What's going to go wrong? Do I need this? Do I need that? And I kind of always say to people, like, you're not going to die going on an overnight camping trip. You could go with literally nothing. You could go with not even water, and you're going to be all right, bro. Like, it's going to be fine. So just don't be too afraid of that. Granted, if you're trying to, like, go and do Black Bear Pass in your Subaru, like, think twice before you do that. But if you're just, like, going to go find a Forest Service road to drive down with a little bit of washboard and pull over and camp for the night, don't overthink it. Just go out there and have fun. But you're going to learn some things, and you're going to say, oh, it would have been really nice if I had a propane stove. Or it would have been really nice if I brought gloves. Like I was like playing with firewood and I got a splinter. Maybe I bring gloves. My hands are soft. I should have brought gloves. So I say just like don't overthink it because you're not gonna die. Like maybe bring a jump starter pack and maybe get like a Garmin InReach just in case you're like out there. But like you're not gonna die. Just bring a bottle of water and you'll literally live.
Make sure you know that where the jack is in your car. If you need to go get an air pump, go get a $50 DeWalt little battery pack from Home Depot. Like you're gonna. I don't
want like anybody to die on my. Mike said I would be fine, and I'm out here. It's 0 degrees, and I didn't even bring a jacket. Like don't be stupid about it. But like for the most part, you don't need much to get out there. And then eventually, people see a like my truck or whatever. They see my Tacoma, and it's overbuilt. It's got more than most people need. It's got more than I need for most scenarios, but at some point there was a scenario where I needed it, so I added it. But most scenarios you don't need it. You just need a bone stock vehicle.
You go out and then you enjoy it. You go deeper. You do more technical stuff, and you may need a little more, but you don't need anything to go. Just go camping, enjoy the wilderness. I mean,
an evolution. For sure. Well, the truck, but like it's or the tent, but it's an evolution.
Like
you don't need you don't need full steel skids and a steel bumper and a
No,
winch.
right.
You're first like going out into
Yeah,
like
go
somewhere
up to
that this-
Steamboat, go hang out by
Yeah.
a lake.
Exactly.
Like, go to
Yeah.
McConaughey. Like,
I think
get
people
out there.
get, like, with social media and everything, they get intimidated by it.
Yeah.
You know, because they see all these crazy built rigs, and it's like, oh, I need all that stuff to go do, you know, some camping by a pre-built, you know, campsite or whatever. And it's like, no, you don't. But I think on the kids thing, it's like when we were kids, it was like mom would kick us out of the house and be like, go, you don't come back in, like, go do your thing. And like, we got that like outside outdoor. We also lived on a couple acres, so it was nice. But, you know, bringing your kids out there and just like getting them away from the screens and having them kind of figure that stuff out, I feel like is good. And
Totally.
yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
instilling that maybe what your parents didn't do for you or something.
Flip the
and your
script.
kids and yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting world
that's
we're
the
in now.
that's a missing trait in a lot of people is the figure out itiveness, like the ability to just figure things out. Not everyone has that, but if you do have it, then yeah, you should be good.
Well, and there's, but I mean, like we're talking about new people maybe aren't comfortable with it. Just a disclaimer here to add is like there's a community for everyone.
Yeah,
There are people out there that want to help you more than really what you even understand. You go get into a Toyota community or
Yeah.
you know, overlanding community, like people, this is community, right? They're gonna pour into you, they're gonna help you. So it's
Yeah.
like go that route too. Like get involved,
and there's a lot
join
of people
something.
that are like looking
Tons.
to have more people to do it with.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
not. I have this kind of mean joke with all my friends. Like my friends list is full right now.
Yeah.
So like I'm not looking for like I don't have time for my current
More.
friends. So I'm not. But there's a lot of people, especially as you're getting into like adult age, where you move to a new place for a job or you're getting into a new hobby or what. There are so many people out there looking for people to camp with.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get into it, go to a Rigs and Coffee event or
For
go
sure.
to a Overland Expo or go
Yeah.
to some open house at some event and just mingle with people or connect with them on social media or whatever. But there's a lot of people that are willing to help and looking for
Totally.
friends.
Yeah, I've never
Totally agree with it.
met a douchebag in our industry. It's always been pretty.
I know.
Pretty
I've
good
been
people that-
into some
you know.
industries, and Overland industry is probably the chillest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just good people. I think that's part of the community. I mean, we have an employee that works here that she was more in like the racing community. She's like, my God, the community
of
is
D-bags
so
there.
different.
Right.
So different.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, Overland community is good. One of the best. Like
What
I've
good
had a lot of
people.
hobbies and been into a lot of things throughout my life, and the Overland community is one of probably my favorite
Yeah.
of the communities.
Yeah,
honestly.
super
general.
chill, good people,
Yeah.
and some good cooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps to know a few of those.
Yeah. The earlier conversation about people cooking, and I'm not that. I'll eat the food, and I appreciate those people cooking. It's just not me.
Well, sweet. I mean, I think we might be able to wrap it up, right?
Yeah,
Or do
no,
we
I-
want to keep going. I mean, we could.
I mean, we can do it again too, and
Yeah.
have you back and
Yeah.
have another kind of little round table. But it's been awesome having you here, and
Yeah,
I
thanks
think
for
the
having
people
me.
are really going to enjoy it. And yeah, thanks for being a part of Free Spirit, joining the dark side, and
Hey, happy to be here.
yeah, good,
been
good. Well, we
good.
love having you.
Sweet. Until next time. All right.
All right.
Adios.
Take
See
it
ya.
easy.